Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, I'm John Trudeau. Welcome back to Hitman 2 with Haven Island, the full story. Now, just in case you knew, this was a series of videos I did back when the first Hitman game of the current trilogy came out, because Hitman games these days are massive and complicated and full of stories and hidden agendas and secrets and characters lying to each other, lying to the player, all that good stuff. So in the full story series, I basically dug through everything that gets said by all the targets to each other, to other characters in the level, to try and figure out what's actually going on. And I've decided to bring it back for Haven Island, because Haven Island is an absolute flippin' hive of targets lying to each other, lying to the player, all sorts of secrets, agendas, all of that good stuff. So I've been through this level very, very carefully. Let's get ourselves the full story. So, just as a reminder of the setup here, Haven Island is basically a place where extremely rich people go when they've done some very, very bad things and want those things to be gotten rid of. A reputation management agency that literally has the ability to wipe the record clear through some very illegal tech. The three targets, meanwhile, are the three owners: Tyson Williams, the CEO, Ljudmila, the client handler, and Stephen Bradley, the tech genius. And though these three are partners, there's a hint in the very initial briefing that all might not be well between them.
Tyson Williams, founder and rumoured tyrannical CEO of Haven.
Now there's two details there that I think are actually very, very important indeed. One, the fact that he's tyrannical, so may not be particularly popular with his partners, but two, the fact that this is a rumour. Now, there are a lot of rumours circulating around Haven Island, and over the course of this video we're going to try and figure out why that is, and who started them. And speaking of that, let's start off with Ljudmila, because that's clearly where the game wants you to start off with, because the moment you begin for the first time, Ljudmila is literally walking along the pier in front of you, so she's pretty much engineered to be the first target you're going to meet. And straight away she takes an interest in 47, or to be precise, an interest in your cover, Tobias Reaper, a thief, asking you to contact her personally by leaving you her phone number in your hut, leading to a private meeting at the restaurant.
It's a little embarrassing, but we've had an incident. A theft. The thief is an employee here, a person working in Mr. Williams's villa at the other end of the island.
What was stolen?
A USB drive containing some sensitive information. Personal information, which I would rather not fall into the hands of others. So, my offer is this. Obtain the USB drive from the thief without alerting anyone at the villa. The thief is likely still there. I can't get you inside, so you'll have to use that particular skill set of yours to gain access. Do that, and I'll convince Mr. Williams to give you a 50% discount on our service fee. That's $1 million, Mr. Reaper.
A generous offer. The information must be valuable.
Mostly to me. It's very personal. Please call me as soon as you've recovered it.
Very well. I'll call you.
So, a USB's been stolen and she wants it back, but two crucial details to take note there. One, she's very vague about what's actually on the USB outside of it being of a personal nature. And two, interestingly, she's not able to get you inside the villa, despite the fact that she's one of the owning partners of the business, and thus a partner of the villa's owner, Tyson Williams. So keep both of those details in mind. However, when you do head over to the villa and track down the thief, that's where Ljudmila's story starts to fall apart. You see, you overhear a phone call made by the thief to Ljudmila herself.
Voicemail again? Yes. Hello, Miss Petrova. Just leaving a message. It's me. I have the item you asked for. It's not on me, of course. It's in my locker. Anyways, please come by the villa and pick it up. I really don't feel comfortable with this. If Mr. Williams discovers that I've stolen... well, please just come and get it.
So the big question here, if Ljudmila's already got an agent inside the villa that has the USB, why doesn't she just come to the house and collect it? Well, if we have a bit of an explore upstairs in Tyson Williams' villa, we overhear a bit of information that might help recontextualise this a bit.
She's not even staying at the villa anymore.
No, not for at least a month. She goes off to one of the other islands on the last boat, or stays in one of the empty guest huts at night.
Wow. Well, I've heard Mr. Williams is a bit of a handful, but I thought she was really in love with him. I guess that explains why he's been so uptight lately.
He's sick with jealousy. I heard from one of the guards up there that he rummages through her things, checks her computer for God knows what. It's not pretty.
Oh, That explains why she's been so hands-on with the guests these past few weeks. She's never taken an interest in the clients like this before.
Anything to get away, I guess.
So Ljudmila and Tyson aren't just business partners, they were also dating. We don't know for how long, but given what we just overheard from the staff there, potentially some length of time. Meanwhile, in the security office, if we examine the security footage of the thief actually getting hold of the USB in the first place, we can start to put together a working theory for what might well be on the USB. You see, the safe the USB was stolen from is inside Tyson Williams' private security office. A security office that features a very large number of live cameras. Camera feeds that include both Ljudmila's private bathroom and her bedroom back when she was staying at the villa. So given she previously stated the information was extremely personally sensitive, we might reasonably assume that Tyson Williams has various photos or videos of her in some extremely compromising and sensitive positions. Following Tyson Williams around his house provides some supporting evidence for this theory too, because he most definitely is keeping a very close eye on Ljudmila through a pair of binoculars, and generally acting like a bit of a scary and stalkerish ex-boyfriend.
What is she up to now? Huh? Why is she talking to that guy? I can't trust her. It's unbelievable.
There's more supporting evidence if you hand the USB over to her, where, without specifically commenting on the nature of the images on the USB, she does pretty much confirm the theory.
Tyson, Mr. Williams. He's not well. Hasn't been for some time. We used to be together, but his illness... I couldn't take it anymore. I don't know why I'm telling you this. He monitors my every move. I think he asked that girl to steal my information because he wants to... I don't know. Punish me? Kill me? Who knows anymore?
Except there's just one small problem. Everything I just told you is a lie. After you actually give Ljudmila the USB, she immediately goes and has this phone conversation, which, thanks to the miracle of editing, we can hear both sides of.
Stephen, I recovered the USB drive, and I think I found a solution to our mutual problem.
Mila, that's great news.
Yes, I just need to get that idiot Portman out of his hut so I can access his computer. Once that's done, we're ready.
Okie dokie. Let me know when you need me.
She doesn't just want the USB back for personal reasons, it's part of a wider two-step plan she's putting together with one of the other targets, Stephen Bradley, the programmer. Part 1, of course, is the mysterious USB that she's managed to persuade you to steal on her behalf from Tyson's villa. The second part, however, means we need to discuss Jason Portman. Now, Jason Portman's actually a really interesting character, because at this point he's actually made 4 separate appearances in the Hitman franchise. In person in Hokkaido, the Architect's Island, and now here on Haven Island, and also mentioned in New York.
Say, aren't you Ruby Red, the investigative reporter? I loved your expose on the much-talked data abuse. I mean, wow, Jason Portman must hate you.
In fact, it's that bit of information in New York that led him to Haven Island here at the moment. You see, the short version of Jason Portman's story is, he is an extremely vain, plastic surgery-obsessed tech billionaire who sold his first major business, Quantum Leap, for $1 billion just ahead of the events of Hokkaido, after which he decided he was going to spend a bit of that money having facial reconstruction surgery, muscle implants, basically a brand new body built for him at Gamma.
Surgeons and endless amounts of money that I have can make it happen in weeks. Screw the natural way. That's the... Oh. Shut up, I bet you would.
At some point after this, he founded Much Talk, which is basically Facebook in the Hitman universe, a massive social media network that's recently been hit by a series of massive data breaches. Bad enough, in fact, he's decided to come to Haven to have a bit of reputation cleansing done. Though given the slightly guarded way Ljudmila refers to his particular problems when she speaks to him on his patio...
I feel like we're very close to making an agreement here, and, well, you did come to us with your particular needs.
It's perhaps not ridiculous to suggest that a man as vain as Jason Portman might actually be interested in hiring Haven services to get rid of any leaks or bad press reporting on his plastic surgery. In either case, though, Ljudmila has an interesting proposition for him.
As I mentioned at dinner last night, we're prepared to pay you $500 million for your controlling shares in Much Talk.
This, however, I suspect is a lie, for the simple reason that neither of her partners and co-business owners mention the sale at any point. The offer most likely is in fact a fake, as she's tried various tactics to get into Jason Portman's confidence, which we now know is an important part of whatever her plan is. Her other tactics include trying to lay on a lovely spa treatment for him to lure him away from his computer.
How about I set up a nice session over at the spa for you? Release the tension a bit.
I don't know. I have to think about this.
And on the previous evening, before 47 arrived, trying to seduce him at dinner.
I'm glad we don't have to talk to that Petrova woman anymore. Did you notice how clinging she was last night? Portman could hardly get away from her. Embarrassing.
She certainly seemed eager. I overheard her talking to one of the staffers as well. Apparently, she's really eager to get him out of the house. No idea why.
There was what I will say is a very cute touch, despite the fact that Ljudmila is an expert at seduction, that being one of the skills she uses to actually create clients for Haven, as it specifies in her intel file. Jason Portman himself is completely immune to her charms, and the reason for that is he's completely in love with his unseen ex-girlfriend Stacy.
Candlelit dinner, reconnecting the past. Anywhere you want. In your dreams. That's the new vegan place on 5th. Wow, I'm down with that.
The same woman he's been pining for, in fact, since we first saw him at Hokkaido some years ago.
Oh, hey, Stacy. It's Jason Portman.
And though she never asked you to do this, if you as 47 get Jason Portman out of the way in some way, she will indeed break into his computer, and you'll overhear the following conversation, which again, I can give you both sides of.
Stephen, it's me. I have Portman's computer. What now?
Mila. Okay. Enter the password Krugerification.
Okay. Got it. And then what?
Load up the app on the USB, install it on his C drive. That's it.
Okay, I'll do that now. Talk to you in a few. Stephen, it worked. We're in.
Great work, Mila. Now what?
Now I just need that USB from the villa. I'm hoping our new arrival, Mr. Reaper, might be of assistance here. He certainly looks to have the skills.
Another cute touch, by the way, his password is actually the same word he used to describe the plastic surgery he was undergoing way back in Hokkaido.
Krugerification, it's happening. It's actually happening.
If you do assist her getting hold of the USB and also hacking into Portman's computer, you finally get the full picture as to what her plan's going to be, as at that point she meets up with Stephen to discuss it.
We have to expedite our plans. Tonight. It has to be tonight.
What? Why?
Stephen, we need to leave. I've never seen Tyson this paranoid. He's monitoring my every move now. It's just a matter of time before he finds out about us.
All right, then that's what we do. I guess I can trigger the money transfer from my laptop. Just burn it afterwards.
And the database wipe? Did accessing Portman's computer do the trick?
That idiot gave us everything we needed to disappear from every online database in the world. Sure, every hospital and criminal record in the U.S. in the process, but, you know, it should work.
Wonderful. In case it doesn't, there's a guest here, Mr. Reaper. He could possibly help us get rid of Tyson.
Reaper? Ah, yeah, the late arrival. Bold move. I don't think we'll need it, though. The worm should work just fine.
You know me, darling. Always make sure there's a contingency plan. We can activate him once we're off the island.
Okay. I'll get the last thing sorted out. Tonight, Ljudmila Petrova and Stephen Bradley say goodbye to the world.
Good riddance, too.
So Ljudmila's secretly been seeing Stephen Bradley, their plan is to rob Haven, nuke a huge amount of data around the world to cover their escape, and then basically disappear. But in which case, what was actually on the USB? Well, if you do things in precisely the right order, you can actually get a conversation in which Ljudmila confirms this.
It's me. We have everything we need. Tyson's personal data is with me now, and Portman's computer is breached.
The data on the USB isn't private information about Ljudmila, it's private information about Tyson, potentially as emergency blackmail material just in case he ever decided to try and track them down after what they did. Now there is an alternative here, which is, it's possible Ljudmila is lying to Stephen. The USB might in fact contain precisely what we originally thought, compromising photos and videos of her. She simply lied to Stephen because if he thought it was important blackmail material against Tyson, he'd be more likely to go along with the plan of trying to get hold of it before they left. Which is definitely possible, but I suspect she's telling the truth. It's more likely to be blackmail material against Tyson, given obtaining embarrassing information and then using it to blackmail people is pretty much what she does. Except there's another small problem, which is everything I just told you is a lie again. You see, if you don't interact with Ljudmila in any way at all, you can overhear this phone call inside the spa.
It's me. I'm calling to make sure the accounts are prepared. No, he doesn't suspect anything. It's taken me months to prepare this, and I've been very careful. Who? Stephen? He's still useful, but, well, I think more so as a patsy than as an accomplice. If all goes well, I'll leave him here to take the fall after the system's been wiped. As long as the accounts are in place, they'll never be able to trace me, no matter how fancy their systems are. Good. I'll call you from Paris. Bye.
So she's not actually with Stephen at all. She simply seduced him because she needs to use him to steal the money and then cover their escape. But actually, she's not planning for him to leave at all. He's going to stay behind and take the fall. But more importantly, we might want to notice here, there's a bit of a pattern of behaviour for Ljudmila starting to appear. You see, we mentioned earlier Ljudmila was an expert at seduction, and indeed she's managed to seduce pretty much all of the main players on Haven Island. As we just said, she's managed to seduce Stephen to take advantage of his tech abilities. She also attempted to seduce Jason Portman, but sadly, his heart belonged to Stacy. And she even attempts to seduce and manipulate you, the player, promising after you hand over the USB to have a private one-on-one dinner that evening. But of course, we know that evening will never happen, because she's planning to have already escaped by then. And of course, once we've actually spotted that pattern of seduction, that does rather cast her relationship with Tyson in a brand new light. You see, the way she tells it and the way the staff in the villa understand it is, they were a couple for a long period of time, until he developed a mysterious illness that made him paranoid and unpredictable, which is why she ultimately needed to get away from him. But what if none of that was true? You see, now we need to take a bit of a look at Tyson and his mysterious disease. You see, the only information we really have about Tyson's illness is what we hear secondhand, like something we overhear from the staff.
Really sad to see Mr. Williams so ill. He keeps complaining about that migraine of his. He can't even go out in the sunlight anymore.
You know what I heard? That doctor of his mentioned something about some old disease Mr. Williams once suffered from. Said it had likely left some permanent side effects.
What? Like the scars on his body?
More like scars on his brain. Doctor said there was a high risk of some permanent damage to his mind, which would explain the, you know, his episodes.
However, there is one authority it's very easy to overlook, which is there's a doctor in the level who has an appointment with Tyson. Now, if you bring down the doctor, you can use his disguise to infiltrate the villa nice and easily. If, however, you leave the doctor alone and infiltrate the villa in another way, the doctor will actually come and examine Tyson to try and figure out what's wrong with him. So, this is pretty much the most reliable opinion we're going to get on the state of his health.
Doc, finally. Well, you sure as shit took your sweet time. I'm dying here.
I came as soon as I could, Mr. Williams. Now, what seems to be the trouble?
I'm running the mother of all fevers is what's the trouble.
All right, let's have a look at you then. Take off your robe and let me listen to your heart and lungs. Been drinking plenty of fluids? It's important in this climate, you know.
Does whiskey count?
No.
Look, Doc. Is there any chance this could be the, old illness coming back?
Oh, no, that's not really possible. I think this might just be a case of heat stroke, or possibly food poisoning. Have you been eating?
Not a lot, no. You're absolutely sure it's not back? The old scars have been itching, and I'm getting these terrible headaches.
The infection was destroyed, Mr. Williams. Unless you've somehow re-exposed yourself, there's no threat. Did you take your medication?
More or less. Not today.
Go and take it now, then. I'll change your prescription to something a little stronger, and then we'll see in a few days. Okay?
Yeah, fine, Doc. You're the expert.
That's right. I'll be in my hut with my, assistant, if you need me again.
In short, many years ago, Tyson had some form of unspecified infection, which had a risk of causing long-term brain damage. An infection he's terrified might return. However, the doctor makes incredibly clear that's basically impossible. Whatever's wrong with him right now, it is not the return of that infection. But if that's the case, why is Tyson ill? Well, I'm no doctor, but the game does actually provide another explanation. One of the guards up on the balcony suggests malaria. Now that would be consistent with a high fever, bad headaches and associated photosensitivity. The only symptom it wouldn't explain would be the itchiness of his rashes, but he could just be imagining that because he's terrified of his old disease returning. There's also some other mitigating factors that might make him feel a lot worse than he should do, such as he admits he's not eating properly, he's not drinking enough water, and indeed he's under a huge amount of stress. Haven right now is handling the business of the Hitman universe Illuminati, and on top of that, of course, from his point of view, he's just broken up with his long-term girlfriend, who is immediately going out and very publicly trying to seduce other people on the estate. And just in case that's not enough, we know for a fact that Ljudmila is deliberately trying to make him paranoid.
He's probably looking through my computer right now. I've thrown him a lot of small chunks of meat, just like you taught me.
In short, based on the testimony of the doctor and the surrounding circumstances, the most likely scenario is he's actually not that ill at all, his symptoms have just been severely exacerbated by various unfortunate circumstances, him not taking care of himself and an extremely stressful environment. And if we can just return to the housekeeper whose story we overheard at the beginning of this section, it is rather odd that she would be familiar with his medical history related to a disease he got over before he ever actually moved to Haven Island in the first place. So, where did that rumour actually come from? This one's a bit of speculation, but it doesn't seem beyond the realm of possibility that Ljudmila might have been the one to start those rumours, knowing full well that Tyson, in possession of a secret security room in which he watches live video footage of his own household, would overhear the house staff talking about his previous disease to sow the idea in his mind. And as for why she would go to all of that trouble, simply to keep him out of the way. Her plan works best if all of her various marks never actually meet up. And so Tyson is left isolated in his villa by fear of a disease that doesn't actually exist. Stephen stays in his private island and never actually visits the villa at all, potentially because Ljudmila has been filling his head with nonsense about how Tyson is now unpredictable and dangerous.
We need to leave. I've never seen Tyson this paranoid. He's monitoring my every move now. It's just a matter of time before he finds out about us.
And as a rather cute touch, Ljudmila's made sure that Jason Portman has been put in the cabin on the very far side of the island from Stephen Bradley's private island and the gym where he spends a lot of time to minimise the chance of those two running into each other. So with some compelling evidence on hand that Ljudmila is the mastermind trying to manipulate everyone and get away scot-free, the question is, who is she actually working with? Who was that on the far end of the phone call she made in the spa? Well, if you actually follow her for 2 loops in a row, without actually interacting with her in any way, she makes a second phone call with some more interesting information in it.
Pietro, it's Ljudmila. I've done everything you instructed. Are the papers ready? My accent? Oh, shit. I've been playing pretend here for so long I forget it's even on. Look, never mind. Are the papers in order? We're pulling the trigger tonight. That remains to be seen. There's been a development. A new client on the island. He's in the removal business, as it were. I may be able to activate him. Tyson, yes. I don't owe that swine anything. If you knew just half of what he's put me through. God. Let's not get into that now. I can tell you when we meet. Wonderful. I'll meet you in Paris. And Pietro, darling, I can't wait. Thank you. Better get back to it.
Now, the name Pietro, while fascinating, is a bit of a dead end. No one of that name has ever previously shown up inside the Hitman franchise. However, I'd argue the more crucial bit of information is, whoever Pietro is, he's known her a long time before she adopted the current accent she's using, and I'd say if we actually look back to her intel sheet, the answer might be staring us in the face. You see, during her late teenage years, she travelled across Europe and fell in with a group of con artists. Pietro, coincidentally, is a name most commonly found in Italy, but also not unheard of in other Central and Northern European countries like Switzerland, Austria, or Germany, so that name might potentially be a clue. Now, officially according to the intel sheet, she left that group of con artists to come and join Tyson Williams in setting up and running Haven. Except, what if she didn't? What if Tyson Williams and the whole of Haven has simply been an extremely long con? And this, I'd argue, is likely to be the real truth behind Ljudmila Vitrova. She never actually left her old group of con artist friends. Instead, she has spent years getting ready to rob Haven Island for everything it's got and then disappear back to her old friends in Europe. So, an intricate and perfect crime indeed, aside from one small problem. There's a bit of a sting in the tail. You see, her plan depends on her seducing Stephen Bradley so he can actually do the tech work for her before she disappears and leaves him to take the blame. But there's an issue. She's picked the wrong patsy. You see, if we look at Stephen Bradley's intel file, something's a little bit odd about it. For a tech genius, he isn't actually that much of a high achiever. He scrapes through school without spectacular grades, joins a startup as a programmer which goes bankrupt, leading to the suicide of one of the people involved, with the only positive outcome being a piece of login software he developed which he immediately flogged to a social network and then also used to steal data behind the scenes. Stealing a bit of data and selling it off to small marketing houses. These are not big sexy crimes, this is very, very small business. But despite that, the tool happens to be precisely what Tyson Williams needs to set up Haven. After all, accessing, stealing and changing data was all Tyson Williams wanted. And indeed, the intel file confirms he pretty much doesn't do anything at this point. The system's entirely automated. He basically spends all his time just running around his island, in the gym, doing basically no work whatsoever. In short, pretty much his entire career seems to have been cashing in on this one bit of software he developed back when he was in college. And here's where we get to the sting, because Jason Portman knew him in college, and he puts a whole new light on the situation.
I was surprised to see that goddamn hack Stephen Bradley at dinner last night. To discover he is part of your company? Well, let's just say I'm not impressed.
I understand you have a troubled past with Stephen. Something about a college project.
Troubled? That's putting it mildly. He stole my concept and my code and made millions on it. I'm really not too keen on giving him the keys to my latest empire.
The one decent bit of tech that Stephen Bradley ever built in an otherwise fairly unremarkable and mundane career wasn't actually built by him. Stephen Bradley is a fraud. And that's where the final sting in the tail is. You see, after Ljudmila and Stephen meet up and agree that they're going to be escaping that same day, Stephen goes over to his private island, now with the access to Portman's system that he requested.
Alright, Stephen. Let's see. Back-end access to Portman's system. Entirely doable. That entire Quantum Leap venture was pure luck. He based his code on half my stuff. Alright, let's have a look. What? How the hell did he... God, I was sure that would work. Bastard. Ljudmila is not going to like this. I need some air.
And even with the access he wanted, he can't actually do it. Their master plan can never work because Stephen Bradley simply isn't talented enough to do it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the full story of Haven Island, in which every single one of the three targets is caught in a web of lies. Stephen, caught lying to his partners about his own level of competence, Ljudmila, the mastermind of a plan that can't ever succeed, and Tyson himself, paralysed in fear of a disease that doesn't exist. And that, I think, is everything there is to discover in terms of the story on Haven Island. So, I hope you've had a nice time, just kind of, going through this Hitman level with me, because it's been a fascinating one, an absolutely flipping fascinating one. So, let me know if you've enjoyed this, because there are other fascinating Hitman levels I've never actually done a proper full deep dive into. So, I could be tempted to extend this series, do a bit more. We shall see. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing that. But in the meantime, I've been John. This has been Many a True Nerd, and this has been Hitman 2 with the full story. Thank you very much, and goodbye. No, sadly, I cannot be the Santa Claus of murder tonight. So apparently, even though this thing is... Oh, no, you can't. No, you most certainly can't. Okay. Is that the symbol meaning I'm about to pull her over? Yep, there we are. Oh! I feel like she didn't necessarily survive that. No, she's very dead.